out. I'm recording this, but if you're watching the live, go ahead and get on Zoom with us so that you don't miss a single thing, okay? So I want to make sure that you guys get all this good stuff that Amie's going to drop you today. But all that stuff aside, guys, I want to welcome you guys back to Fit Pro Mentorship Review, and I want to thank Amie so much for joining us today. I'm super excited for this because when I kind of put out a call for interest on course creation and passive income, I think it's something that a lot of PTs and coaches want to do. I just don't think they really know how to do it. So this was easily the biggest hand raiser post we had in our community as far as what people are interested in, what they want to do, how they want to supplement their business and their income, and just really create kind of a different avenue of revenue for themselves. So I'm really excited to have you in here. Guys, Amie is no joke. First of all, she's one of the nicest people I've ever met, but she's also, she came from just, regular coach, regular nutritionist. She was really successful in that. And then now is a 7-figure course creator, and she teaches other people how to do the same as well. She's helped thousands of people create courses and passive income through that. So Amie, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all of your amazing knowledge.
Of course. Well, thank you for all of your kind words. I'm definitely really excited to be here. I'm so passionate about this topic just because it truly changed my life when I started as a nutritionist. And I loved what I did and I loved seeing clients, but pretty soon it just became really overwhelming and exhausting for me. And I was like, I need to figure out another way because I'm just not somebody who wants to work 12-hour days. You know what I mean? So I love sharing that that's possible to do with other people, especially in the health and wellness world.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's what's so attractive about it, right? Like we're all working our butts off here. We're marketing, we're seeing our clients, we're delivering, we're on sales calls. So this really gives us a way to leverage ourselves where we're not entirely it's not so taxing on our time or our energy, and so we're able to serve more people and kind of give and give people another avenue to work with us too. If it's not something that's really hands-on or one-on-one. Just because people can't afford the high ticket thing doesn't mean they can't afford kind of a lower ticket course to kind of get them started, get them some amazing results with whatever you guys are offering them as a solution. And then once they see that, once you wow them, maybe they up and ascend into your higher level programs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to diving into this, Amie. Real quick, just so people know if they're in the right place or not, can you just kind of tell people like who your course or program would be for and who it's not for? Maybe they're not in the right place in their business. Maybe they haven't been had enough experience yet as a coach or as a personal trainer. So can you speak on that for just a second?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main questions I get is, do I need to see one-on-one clients first before I create an online course? And I think there's going to be mixed opinions on that depending on who you ask. I personally don't actually think that you need to have one-on-one clients first. I mean, I think it can be a great help to you if you want to, but I know like if you're like me, I started to see one-on-one clients only because I thought that was my only option, but I knew that I never wanted to be trading my time for money in that way. And I always knew I wanted to do something that was more passive and more digital. So if you're that way too, and you're like, okay, I haven't had a lot of one-on-one clients, but I know that I want to have the freedom to make my own schedule. I don't want to trade time for dollars. Or maybe you do have a lot of one-on-one clients right now and you're like, I'm so burnt out, I'm so exhausted, like I need to figure out a way to make consistent income without trading my time for dollars. I would say then an online course is definitely for you. The only person I would say that it's not a good fit for is like, let's say you absolutely love one-on-one clients and that's all you want to do and you don't necessarily want to do anything that's more automated or passive. I mean, I don't know if anybody would like not want that extra income stream, but I'm sure there are people out there who don't. So if that's you, then it might not be the right fit.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, guys, so make
Yeah.
sure you're in the right place. I'm just going to dive into some questions that we had because I had people kind of load up our event with some questions prior to you coming in. So I want to get right into those. And guys, if you're on either the live with us or the Zoom with us, feel free to drop some questions below for Amie because she's here and we want to take advantage of that, right? Okay, so the first one, Amie, that I have, hold on, people are asking for replays already. Okay, so Nicole says, I'm just getting into online coaching with a whole person focus, nutrition, habit change, lifestyle, sleep and stress, all that stuff. But she's brand new. She has a Facebook group that she's had for 3 years with about 180 members in it, but she has no clients as of yet. She just finished her certifications and her last job. So she'd like to know what would be the best and most helpful to offer her clients who want to take a go or who want a take and go course that combines those things. So I guess this is like the golden question, right? Like, how are people supposed to deliver a multifaceted course pulling from their major pillars of their program? Like we all know how to deliver at such a high level. We haven't really figured out how to coursify things and still deliver something, but on a smaller, like less taxing, in a smaller, less taxing way, if that makes sense.
Totally. I think the most important thing to think of, and it's hard to do when you're first starting out, but think about the end result that you're going to help somebody achieve. So even if you help people in a variety of ways, let's say you're covering nutrition, you're covering fitness, you're covering mindset, those things can all still be in your course. But if you pitch your course that way, or you position it or title that way, it's going to be really confusing. People don't understand why they need it. So thinking about what the end result is that you're going to help somebody achieve by taking your course is the most important thing to focus on, because that's what people will pay for. So even if you haven't really had one-on-one clients before, probably you can at least think of, okay, what is an end result that I can help somebody achieve? Is it lose 15 pounds? Is it, start eating keto? Like whatever that end result is, that's a desired end result for your audience. And again, if you don't really know what that is yet, there are different ways. Obviously, you can like talk to people, you can pull your audience, but what I think is the most effective is to just turn it inward and think about, who you were on your fitness or wellness journey like a couple years ago before you knew what you know now, and what was the information that you needed, or like what were you looking for? Because usually that's the most impactful story that we can tell, and usually we're most helpful at helping somebody else who's similar to us, and oftentimes we attract people that are similar to us anyway. So I think that can be a really effective way to like think about your course topic if you haven't necessarily had a lot of one-on-one clients yet.
That's a really good answer too. So basically thinking about where you were when you were at a time when you would need something like that in order to get the solution that you're now offering.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to kind of like niche down your topic as well. I think a lot of people in the wellness world have trouble with this because they're so multi-passionate and they want to do so many things. And they're like, well, I want to help people with mindset, but I also want to help people with their actual food choices. And I think that's great. But again, thinking about your own story, if you can be as specific as possible and like think about what is the specific end result that you can help somebody achieve.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Okay, I want to move on to the next question. So this one I really like for you because I think you're the queen of content. Because I watch your stuff every day, and I don't understand how you can possibly create so much content and brand new content all the time. So this one's a good one for you. So Nicole's also asking, how do you decide what content to put out, and what content becomes stuff that you don't mind being free, that you market with, and then versus what you're going to put into your passive program? Like,
Yeah.
how do you determine what gets given out for free and what gets into that program?
That's a really good question. And I know that a lot of people, I guess, are kind of fearful, like, well, I don't want to share too much because then who's going to buy my course? Honestly, that even though I've had that thought before and I understand it, I try not to let it dictate anything that I do, because in my experience, the more that I give away in terms of my free content, the more my audience grows and the more sales that I get. It's kind of like a law of attraction type of thing. Like you're going to get back what you put out there. And I think the more generous you are, the more sales you're going to get. And the main thing is too, is like, there's no way that I can share the same amount of content in like a 30 or 60-second reel as I could in my entire course, and same with you, so much, and there's going to be so much value in a step-by-step sequential order in your course. There's no way that you can replicate that on your social media platforms. It's just not possible. So does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, like we talked about before, just focus on giving, just give, and you will, and there's no way, like Amie was saying, that you're going to give out too much. People still need, like, it's kind of like you're not giving the how, you're giving the what, right? Like, what are people supposed to do? And then your job is to then, give them the how in that paid course. Like, you kind of just want to skim over the surface stuff, and it's still valuable for them because they maybe haven't heard it before, and it still gives them some insight into something, but it lacks the depth that they're going to need to like completely cut you out of the entire situation.
Totally. And I mean, I think an important piece of that too is like give a lot, but also don't be afraid to ask for the sale. I think that's the thing is like if you are only giving free content and you're never telling people how to pay you and like how to enroll in your course, then you are essentially giving away too much for free. But I think if there's a balance, if 80% of the time you're giving and you're providing value and 20% of the time you're reminding people like I also have a more in-depth way you can work with me and here's how to join, here's how to pay me essentially, then I think that's totally fair.
Cool. That's awesome. Nicole's asking, can you generate enough passive programming to make it membership based where they get bits of the program to implement as they go along as kind of a hybrid between training and doing things on their own? So I guess the way I'm interpreting the question is, could you create a program that kind of a course that coincides with your program?
What does she mean? Or do you know like the difference between course and program? Like what she's referring to from program?
I think so it would drip bits of the program to them. So I think, and she's the one who has like the multifaceted program where it talks about, habits and stress and things like
Okay.
that. So I think she wants to kind of drip that stuff in a way where they get pieces of it. And then maybe they're able to do other things outside of that course, whether it's a training with you
Hmm.
or a training on their own. So kind of like a hybrid option.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think dripping is a great way so dripping just essentially, I think you kind of explained it already, but like, let's say somebody joins your course and they get, the first week of content or however you want to drip it out. And then the next week they get the next module or next, section, whatever. That's a great way to do it. I think that's a great way. If you're somebody who's also providing like live coaching, let's say with your course, I think that's a really good way to do it too, because then all of your students are kind of at the same place. Like, let's say they go through the first module and then you have a live coaching call or a live session with you or a one-on-one, and then the next module comes out. I mean, and again, that's such a cool thing about courses is that it's not just one way. You can really make it fit your personality, your, how you like to teach. If you want to do one-on-one sessions in addition to as an upsell, you can, or you can make it completely automated. So yeah, there's so many ways to do it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm also curious, from your standpoint, since you've kind of been there, how many iterations of not just like the model and how you're delivering, but of the actual course itself, did you find that it took for you to be like, okay, this is where I want to be, this is how involved I want to be in the course, and the course itself can stand alone in the way that I'm delivering it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been, I've always been kind of like updating programs and also changing the way that I launch and changing the way that I host it. I think the very first nutrition course that I launched included live coaching once a week for I think the first 6 weeks. So it was more of like a 6 week program. It was like, I'm launching on these dates, gonna get people in, and then the doors are closed. And if you miss out, then you miss out. So it wasn't totally passive at that point. It was
Hmm.
more interactive. And that worked really well for me too, because I wanted to, at the beginning, have a little bit more like hands-on experience with my students and see like what was working and what wasn't, so that I could make changes there on out. And I mean, that was like 4 years ago now. So at this point, just based on like the feedback that I've gotten, and obviously I've changed topics and I've created multiple courses now, I kind of know what works for my students and what works best for me. So that's kind of like the transition that I've made over time.
No, that's really helpful. So no one's saying go ahead and create a course, and it's like the final draft, and you're not supposed to be involved in it, but you actually ran it like a program at first, and then coursified your program. So figuring out what needed to be in there, what didn't need to be in there, how to kind of replace yourself with as much information or frequently asked questions or like one call day of support or something like that they needed. But otherwise, you really just like started with a bunch of support and then gradually just pulled yourself out of that as you went through your iterations of the course.
Totally. And it makes sense, I think, because when you're niche with your topic, you're going to be attracting like a lot of similar types of people. And a lot of what I learned was that most people have the similar types of questions. So that really gave me a lot of insight into, okay, I need to bulk up this area of the course and this area, and maybe I can take some out here. But ultimately, like once I cover all of those bases, I don't need to be as active. I can spend my time creating content to get more people into the course rather than like being in it, if that makes sense.
Which is seemingly which is exactly what you've done, because otherwise I don't understand how you create the amount of content that you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, at this point, like, that's what people ask me all the time. They're like, how much time are you spending on your content? And I'm like, now, because all of my courses are completely passive, my full-time job is creating content. So I'm like totally focused on how can I give the most value on social media and get more people into my sphere so that I can then help them with my courses, rather than being, working in the courses, which is not a way to scale or expand your business, your audience, or your income.
Yeah, totally. No, that's brilliant. And just to clarify too, I think Nicole, you're probably not the only person to ask this question. What's the difference between program and course? That might just be me, but I use program as like something that's more robust and that has coaching involved in it, versus a course, which is just like something that's self-paced, that has modules in it, that doesn't have any support. It might have like some. So hopefully that clarifies things for you. Is that's what you mean, right? As well.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my question. I just didn't know if like there was a different interpretation of like, because sometimes people refer to a course as a program too. So I just didn't know
Okay.
if like there was any confusion there.
Oh yeah, no worries. I want to make sure that people who are watching are clear on that as well. Okay, awesome. So, what have you found to be the most successful marketing tool for generating leads for your course or courses? And is there a marketing tool that works better for your conversion rate compared to lead generation?
Yeah. So essentially, like, this person's asking, like, how do I grow my audience and get those people into my course? So
Exactly.
it's kind of like a multifaceted approach at this point. I mean, what I normally recommend for people is like, choose one social platform where you can create organic content. Like, you don't need to be everywhere. If you try and spread yourself across every platform, you're not going to really make any progress. So choose one that you like and you feel like you can be consistent with. And with that, you're going to be creating content, obviously, and driving traffic to some sort of lead magnet. So this could be like a PDF download, it could be a webinar, it could be a live training like this, something where you are serving people the information that they want to know for free, but you're also capturing their email, their contact. So you kind of have point of contact with them in two ways. You have them on social media and you also have them on email, because I think email is so underrated, in my opinion. It's where all of my passive sales go down, because you're able to follow up with the people that sign up for whatever your free training is or webinar. You're able to follow up with them over time. And I think that is so much more effective. Like, most people, let's say they find you from an Instagram reel and you're talking about your course. Well, most people are not ready to purchase from you like the first time they ever see what you're talking about. But if you're connecting with them in multiple places and following up with them, they're much more likely to purchase after they've like grown to know you. So I think that's the most effective way. And honestly, I think there are obviously, like, you could pay for Facebook advertising, you could do things like that. But I have found that organic traffic is, not only is it free, so if you're starting out, that's a good option, but it converts a lot better. So I think if you have the budget, obviously, to do paid ads or anything like that, you can, but I definitely think it's great to start with organic. And then obviously, like, collaborations, things like this, like, to reach more people, are huge as well.
Cool.
Does that
Awesome.
does that
Yeah.
help answer the question? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful. And just to clarify, that was Michelle asking the question, and Amie like dominates Instagram. Like I think I even went on your Facebook, and you're almost not even there. But like you're 100% committed to Instagram. And then guys, I think this has come up before too. But like the emphasis on email can't be stressed enough. Like, you have a big email list, you have to work it. It's where you can create more touch points with your audience, as opposed to just being on social media where they might miss it, or yeah, it's just not the place for that. So if you get them on your email list, then they're kind of a more committed lead, and you can nurture them over time. You can put them through sequences. I just think it's a much better way to really like hold on to those leads and capture them, as opposed to always trying to fish for new ones.
Totally. It's kind of like a safety net too. I mean, I have this like fear of, people putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak, like on Instagram. I've heard so many people's accounts getting like disabled or something. And if their entire business is there and not anywhere else, I mean, that's really scary if you don't have like some sort of backup. So that's why I really recommend people at least having like email as a backup or something else that you own. And because we don't obviously own our social media accounts, I'm sure
Right.
everybody knows that with like the algorithm, everything's always changing. So it's really great to have something that like is yours.
Yes, absolutely. All right, thank you. What is the best way to offer relevance to clients? So, how do you deliver content by device, location, and user preferences to create personalized experiences? I'm going to assume that your your niche is so important for this because you can't be like your niche has to have about the same location, about the same user preferences to create a similar personalized experience for the person that you want to buy, to be buying your course. But I'm curious what you have to say about that. Have you researched as far as like, for the people who are purchasing your courses, do you know, for example, like how they like to experience the course? Audio versus video, like mobile versus desktop. What does that look like for you?
I know that majority of my students will be actually watching the course from either like a laptop or desktop. I do actually in my courses provide both video and audio, so that I'm not sure at this point which one's more popular, but I just know that like sometimes I just was kind of, and again, this is like a good tip I think if you're creating a course, not trying to appeal to everybody, but think about what your preference would be as a student. Like, what would you want? Would you want a video or would you want audio? Because I know sometimes, like, when I'm taking somebody else's course, I like to go for a walk while I'm listening to the content. Like, I don't want to be just like sitting there all day at my computer. So, with that in mind, I was like, I'm going to offer both. I've also started transcribing my videos because I've had a couple of deaf students. So, I like want to give all different types of options for people. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I guess when you start doing this kind of thing, you'll get feedback from your students. You start learning more about them, and I imagine someone will message you and be like, "Hey, I actually am deaf. I'd love to be able to, consume your content. Can you put it in a way where I can do that?" So I
Yeah.
think it's awesome, and then you just modify it.
Totally. And like if you're new to courses, you don't have to have all of that figured out like before you launch. I think that's something that holds a lot of people back is they're like, "Oh my gosh, this isn't perfect yet. This isn't perfect yet." Like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I think I mean, everybody probably feels like that. I think the best thing to do is let it be imperfect at first and just know that you're going to tweak it and make it better as you move on, as you continue to grow. Because if you're waiting for it to be perfect to launch, you're never going to launch.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about taking imperfect action all the time. So yeah, like
Amazing.
I'm sure your beta course, was scrappy and probably nothing like it is now as far as
Yeah.
how polished it is because I've been through it and it's beautiful, like literally beautiful. Which
Oh,
everything
thank
you put
you.
together is very aesthetically pleasing, but also like really in depth, really high quality. Like all the images and everything. You put a lot of work and time into it, but that wasn't how it was, and it wasn't how it needed to be when you first started out. You just needed to provide the value and the solution that people that you were promising people.
Absolutely. Well,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yeah. Do you How do you build experiences that convert customers of your passive programming into clients? I think this might not be a great question for Amie because you don't have like a coaching program that you ascend people into. You just bring people in through your courses, but do you have them ascend through multiple courses with you? Is that one of your goals?
So with Online Course Academy, so that was my that one and Passive Income Academy are the only ones that are kind of like a step one and a step two. And the reason that I created the Passive Income Academy, the step two, is that I was seeing, everybody's creating their courses and they're selling them, in a live way, but then everybody's like, okay, like that live launching is also a lot of work. Now, how do I make it passive? And that was something that I did in my own business. So I was like, this is a perfect next step. Um, but again, like it might not be for everybody if somebody really prefers the live launching aspect and doesn't want to go evergreen or passive. So I don't know if that answers the question. I'm not sure if I fully understand what the question was.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're good. I
Okay.
think the point is that I think if you're trying to ascend people through, then just providing them really good quality and really good results in each of those programs is going to be good, as well as I think nurturing them with a well thought out email sequence to first of all make them aware that hey, there's more that you're offering on the other end of this course. If you thought this was good, imagine what for us we have programs. So imagine what my program is going to be like for you, right? So kind of nurture these people, get them on your email list. Don't just have them in a course and then expect them to move on to the next thing. Work them a little bit, email them, talk to them, get them on calls, and really see what they're looking for and see what their next step is after you've solved what your course solves for them. move them on to the next step and see what other things that you can solve for them and kind of move them through your pillars, move them through your program.
Totally. And I think like the trust goes a long way too. A lot of times I'll have people, because I have so many courses now, I have people that are like, okay, I've taken these two of your courses. Like, do I need this other one? And I try and be really honest with them. I'm like, okay, I have you taken action on those yet though? Because I don't want, and I'm sure this goes with like any niche of online courses, there are people that kind of procrastinate doing the thing by taking more courses. And I get that, but at the same time, you as like the instructor, I think it has to be really real with them of just being like, okay, maybe like do the work in those courses. And then if you still feel like you need more, then you can do another one. But I think that is a great way to also build trust with your audience, that you're not just trying to like sell them and sell them and sell them. Like you want them to actually like get results from the thing that they bought in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. Like it doesn't do anybody any good to have someone in a course or a program who shouldn't be there, because yes, you're going to take their money, but it's going to be really fruitless for everybody. They're going to be bad clients because they shouldn't have been in that program anyways. They're not going to tell anybody about it. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. So I totally agree. I'm curious what your answers to this one, if you happen to know this, but would Facebook or Instagram be better for organic on an older crowd, like maybe 35 and up? Do you know what are the stats of your audience typically on Instagram?
I mean, I don't really even look at Facebook, to be honest, because I don't like it.
Yeah.
I know we're on Facebook right now, like I will do it, but for my own, I'm not going to be like putting a lot of time into my Facebook strategy, just because like I'm not really on there personally, but I am on Instagram. So I think, again, thinking what's going to be most effective for you is whatever you like doing. And again, the person that you're going to attract into your courses is probably going to be similar to you in some aspect, most likely in like their social media habits. So I think like that's the more important thing to look at. And to be quite honest, like I'm not really a super analytical person. I go by like what I enjoy, what makes me have fun, and then the feedback that I get from my audience. And I can just see that Instagram works really well. But I also think it's because I put a lot of my attention and effort there. So I know that's not like a black and white answer, but I think sometimes it can get easy to get sucked into a rabbit hole of like, but this person says to be on Facebook and this person says this. And it's like, okay, go inward and think about, what do I actually want to do? What's going to be fun for me? And what's going to make the best experience for both me as a business owner, but also the people that I'm serving.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. And guys, it depends. I'm barely on Instagram. I'm just on Instagram. I don't even know why. But to connect with people like Amie, I guess. But yeah, like for me, Facebook works a lot better. So it depends on your audience, depends on you and your preferences.
Totally.
But like Amie said, just like dive into one, see how it works. And guess what? You're not married to it. So you can always switch back to Facebook. If you're not getting the traction you want to and you really give it a good try, try switching and see what happens.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, yeah, don't feel like, and if you do something and you give it all your effort and it's like, okay, nothing's happening, then yeah, it does make sense to maybe pivot and try something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now back to content. So where's the best place for a total newbie to start with content that helps build their brand?
Okay. So, I guess, should we just keep this like platform agnostic, like wherever you want to
Yeah,
be?
yeah,
So I think the best thing to think about again is what result can you help people achieve, and like thinking about that end result first, and then now working backwards, like how can you break that down into smaller bite-sized pieces that can serve like an educational purpose. So let's say you're posting a graphic on Instagram, can you make like an infographic that's savable or shareable? Can you do a short Facebook live that's teaching, how to, whatever your topic is, how to do this, and this, breaking it down into smaller bite-sized chunks. And those topics are going to attract the right type of people. But I think really focusing on, every time I create a piece of content, the thought in my back of my head is, would I save this if I saw somebody else post it? Would I share this with other people? Would I comment on this? Would I find this valuable? And just being really honest with yourself about if you would actually take those actions, because if you wouldn't, then your audience probably wouldn't either. And those are the best ways to, I think, get your content to get shared and to be seen by more people.
yeah. That's really good insight actually. If you guys do follow Amie on Instagram, her content is very like they're all like tips, and they're all like how to do this on Canva, or how to make a reel like this. And so it's relating to her course, but it's not covering the entire thing. It's kind of like little tidbits, and it's really good actionable stuff that you'll be able to use right away, and that people like to share. And that's the best thing about it. You seem to have reverse engineered a lot of your posts so that they're really savable and really shareable, and I'm sure that gives you a lot of extra reach. So really think about what kind of like bite-sized nugget of knowledge or action people want to take, and that'll be more likely for them to to pass that around and to save it, which the algorithm likes, and which then you'll like because you'll have a better following.
Totally. And that's a good point that you brought up too. Like, you don't always have to share like the same types of tips. Like, I'm not talking about online courses all day, every day on my Instagram, but I'm thinking about like different topics that an online course creator would also be interested in that are more sexy, if that makes sense. Like, people want to know how to people want to know how to grow their business on Instagram. And the same people that want to grow their business on Instagram also probably want to create a course. So just thinking about like the different angles you can kind of connect with people, I think is really important.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, Leah just asked, how can you showcase social proof so in your content without just doing like your standard testimonial? I'm curious how you showcase your social proof, Amie.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I do just regular testimonials. I've also interviewed a couple of my course students. Like, I had one online course academy student who had a $150,000 launch on her first launch ever. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I interviewed her on my podcast. I've had a couple students on the podcast. I'm planning to do a Instagram live with another student next week. But then another just really simple way that I kind of leverage social proof is that I actually started screenshotting DMs that I get that I think are questions that a lot of people have. And then I would screenshot them and then answer them in my stories so that I can actually serve more people with the answer to that question. And I think in a way, even though sometimes those people are students, sometimes they're not, it's just social proof of like, look, these are the questions that people are asking me as the expert, and I'm able to answer them for you. So I think there are a lot of different creative ways that you can do that. I mean, even just like Q&As of any kind, when other people see that you're getting a lot of questions on a specific topic and you're able to answer them effectively, I think that's good social proof too.
Yeah, I really like that answer too. Yeah, like showcase your authority. I think it's another way to show your authority by just really just putting it out there. Here are some questions that I get asked all the time, and I'm going to answer them for you guys all because I'm sure you guys all have this question.
Totally.
So I like that. How much time do you spend with students after they've enrolled in a course? I feel like I know this answer.
So at this point, it's very hands off. I mean, I have a Facebook group so that's really the only time I'm on Facebook is for my paid students, that I am always available. Like, people can tag me with their questions. They have lifetime access to the course and lifetime access to that group and all the other students. So even if they enrolled in my course 3 years ago, but they have a question today, I'll still answer it in there. But that's like the touch point with me. Other than that, it's all self-paced. And honestly, it's worked really well. I mean, I've never had students reach out to me and be like, I can't figure this out, or this wasn't in depth enough for me. So I think that makes me feel really good that I went in depth enough with the videos. But I think it's also just proof of what's possible. If you feel like, oh my God, I could never have a course where I'm not helping people one-on-one. Like, well, maybe you could. Maybe there is a way to inside your videos if you don't want to always be doing one-on-ones.
Yeah, no, I like that. And we talked to some people kind of recently who actually give the opportunity for people to get on one-on-one calls as opposed to having it structured into their course or program. They just give it as an optional thing. And I think the people who don't need it don't use it, and then the people who really need it and will really benefit from it are the only people who use it. So I kind of like that. It's like it's there for them if they need it, and it'll probably provide you really good feedback when someone reaches out, because you're like, wait, I built this passive course, so what is this person talking about? And then when you actually get that insight from them, maybe it's an opportunity for you to make some sort of iteration on your course, or add a module, or add like a cheat sheet of some kind, or a download, so that question doesn't come up again.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's a great option. I've tried so many other things too. This is another thing that I think it could work for somebody else that wants to add like a little bit of one-on-one without doing structured calls, is that I don't know if you use Voxer, but it's basically like a voice messaging app. So sometimes in the past, I've launched my course, and then like for the first 10 people that enroll, they get Voxer access to me for like
That's
a
cool.
month or two or whatever it is for those first 10 people that sign up. And that works really well too. You can use it as like an upsell or a bonus. So, I mean, there's just so many creative ways to serve your audience and do a course at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's great. Um, what jobs are best to outsource for your course? I feel like do you outsource anything?
Yeah, I have a full-time assistant. So
Okay.
she helps me with a lot of like obviously the behind the scenes stuff. I'm a lot of like the front facing, like I'm on video a lot. She can't do any of that, obviously. So I think anything number one that you just despise doing. So like I outsourced anything. So my Facebook ads are outsourced. Anything like bookkeeping, financials, that type of stuff is outsourced because I don't want to do that. And then anything that doesn't require me. So like video editing, even graphic editing. I'm still very hands-on with my graphics because I'm very particular about them, but some of the editing can be outsourced. I mean, responding to emails, just any customer support, things that don't need to be you. Because I think like especially when you're a personal brand and you're the face of your business, your energy is so important to be able to like show up on video to serve your audience in that way, that anything behind the scenes that can be done by somebody else, once you're able to outsource it, you definitely should.
Yeah, that's
But I
great.
also understand like if you're not at that point, like for a long time I did everything by myself, so I get it if you're like just in the startup phase, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure like when you can, you want to get leverage as soon as you can so you could focus on just what you're doing, which is right. We all just want to be marketing and serving if we want to be doing that, right? And now you're leveraged in such a way that the right things are outsourced. And obviously you did a great job building your course in a way that the students going through it don't need you that much. And so you're able to be like, okay, how do I want to spend my time most valuably and drive revenue, for my business and serve more people. So I think it's great.
Totally.
What factors do you consider in pricing your course? We've had this question come up quite a bit. Low ticket, high ticket. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on pricing it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I like to think about the end result of what your course is going to teach somebody and what that's worth to them. So for me, I mean, my online course academy is a higher ticket course because what somebody's learning from the outcome of that course has the potential to make them like six figures per year. I mean, like my student who made that in her first launch. So, I mean, the return on investment of that type of course is huge. So it makes sense that it would be priced higher, but it doesn't always have to be like a monetary return on investment. Like you can think about if you're in the wellness world, like maybe somebody has spent thousands of dollars seeing doctors that have never helped them, and your course is going to be the last thing that they need. If that's the case, then again, like that can be a higher ticket course. If it's something, I'm trying to think of what would make sense as like a lower cost option. So I have like an hour-long masterclass on like how to create a reel, like an Instagram reel. And that's just it's very step-by-step, like basic. And I was like, I want everybody to have access to this. There's not like a huge return on it. So it's $50. So it's not crazy, but it's still, it's still a course. So I hope that answers it, but it really, I think, is mostly dependent on how much your student values the end results of your course. And also what price you can really confidently get behind. Because I think when I launched my first course, I don't think I would have been able to confidently sell a $2,000 course, whereas now I can. So I think those things like kind of change over time as well.
Oh, that makes sense. Do you ever see any correlation between like something that's low ticket just not being taken seriously by students, and so the completion rate is low, versus a higher ticket course where people are a little more into it because they're more invested?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's kind of like the catch 22 is that you think as a course creator, like, oh, well, if I make it lower cost, then I'll get more people through the door. But the people that are, paying only $50 versus let's say 1,500, they're going to be less committed. I mean, you really have to think through, most people have to think through the decision to spend a larger amount of money. They have to check in with themselves and be like, am I committed? Am I actually going to do this? Because nobody's going to just drop that amount of money and like not do it. So I think in that way it can definitely weed out students who are more serious. You're going to get better outcomes for your students and get more serious people, better testimonials, things like that. So there are definitely pros and cons. And a lot of times too, I think when I see any of my course students who are pricing something that I think is like a little bit too low based on the value that they're giving, it's mostly just around like, it's fear. It's just like a mindset block of like, I don't think anyone's going to buy this type of thing. Which I totally get, but it's just, yeah, I think that's one of the hurdles of selling an online course or selling anything online, but it does get easier. And just don't feel like you're alone in that. If you feel like, oh my God, who would ever buy this? Like I literally would have that thought all the time. So I get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to try and you got to figure it out, and you can always change price. Like it's all
Totally.
good all the time. Just change what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that reminds me too, Amie has a free passive income masterclass that I'm going to drop a link for here so you guys can check that out. Grab it because when we close this window, everything's going to go away. But I want to move on to the next question here. But you guys go ahead and grab that whenever you're able to. Okay, as far as platforms go, I was waiting for this question to come up. Is one platform preferable to another for hosting your course, like Kajabi or Thinkific?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people say they like different platforms. I personally, as a student, again, like I go back to like my experience and what I liked. I've taken courses on Teachable, Kajabi, and Thinkific, and I liked Teachable the best. I thought it was the most user-friendly. I thought it was the easiest to navigate. And then from the course creator side of things, it's very easy. Like I don't consider myself to be a naturally tech savvy person, and making a course on Teachable was very simple, straightforward, very easy, honestly, in my experience. So that's what I teach, but I've also had students who are on Kajabi and they enjoy it and they like it. So I don't necessarily think there's one that's better than the other. It's just whatever you like, I think again is going to be the best and the easiest for you to create on. So
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like people are going to get caught up here. It's kind of like, should you use, Trainerize, True Coach, or PT Distinction? The clients aren't going to care. It's really about what what you feel comfortable using and how you want to deliver your program. If there's a certain look you're trying to achieve or certain functionality, that's like the only thing that you should care about. No one else is going to care what program you're using. A lot of times they don't even realize what platform they're on when they're using the course. So
right.
like,
As long as they're getting the information, it doesn't
right.
really matter. And I think it's so easy to get lost in those little details as the business owner, but ultimately, like they don't really matter that much.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole had also asked what kind of, well, first of all, let's start with this question first and we'll segue into that. But do you use ads, Facebook or Google, in marketing the course? And about how much of a budget would you say you use? You don't have to give exact numbers, but what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so at this point now I do Facebook and Instagram ads to basically they're just going out to people who are already in my warm audience to remind them to sign up for my webinars, like the one that you just linked, and my online course academy webinars, to just provide people that already follow me more value. And I would say like at this point, and I totally don't mind sharing this, at this point my ads budget is like $3,000 to $4,000 a month. But like, don't let that scare you, because I think when I first started ads, I was testing like $5 a day. So it wasn't very much. And also at the same time too, like I do ads off and on, but I'm still not like totally sold that like they are the be all end all. So I only say that because I think when I started and I thought like the only way to scale was through doing ads, I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, I think it can be, but I think again, organic content is like probably going to perform better. So
Yeah, I think especially when you're first starting out to get that brand awareness, right? So brings me to Nicole's question, which what kind of ad budget and such do I need as a new person creating courses if I'm not well known yet? And I kind of feel like I would focus on organic reach first and maybe a light, like you said, $5 a day ad spend if they want to maybe increase their audience size a little bit and get, better known amongst those people. But I don't know, would you recommend even entertaining the idea of ads like as a brand new person? Because you didn't start doing ads until you're relatively established, right?
yeah, I think I had definitely at least passed like the 6-figure mark before I started doing ads. And that's why in all of my courses, I only teach organic methods. So, I mean, not that I'm against Facebook ads, but I think it's important to make sure that your course is selling organically first before you start throwing money at it. Because if you start throwing money at it and there's something that's not like connecting or converting with people, putting more money into it is not going to make it sell better. So I think like not spending your money until you see that it's working, everything is working, you're getting the amount of sales that you want, like that's appropriate for your audience size. And once that conversion is there with organic traffic, then I think it makes sense to scale with ads, but only at that point, and only if you feel like you know what you're doing. With even with $5 a day, I think you still want to have like some sense of like what you're doing when you're doing
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Well, and like you said, it's not like you're advertising to a cold audience. You've got an email list that you probably used in setting up your ads. So you have like a lookalike audience going. You also have people who have already clicked on something. So you're just kind of, like you said, you're working your warm audience. You're not out there pulling cold people in. That's what your organic, Instagram outreach is for, right?
Yes, yeah, totally.
Okay, great. I don't know if this is going to be broad or not, but what are the key components of the deliverables? So like, what do you feel like people really need to focus on in their delivery to make an effective course like this, where it's really hands off as far as where you come in?
Do you mean like inside the course? Like what kinds of,
Yes.
okay, for the student to get like the desired outcome?
Yes.
I mean, I think video, it really depends on the topic. Like if you're doing like some sort of, let's say you're doing like a fitness course where you're showing somebody how to do moves, and I think it makes sense for you to be in the video actually showing them how to do it. Whereas like with my course, in most of my videos, it's not even me on camera. It's actually me going through slides because I think it's more effective for people to see behind the scenes. Like I'm sharing the screen of my computer so you can see the step-by-step of like how I'm setting this up and how I'm making this work. Because again, I think that's the easiest way for people to learn something that's like technological.
Yeah.
But again, it totally just depends. So I think in my courses, I use a combination of video, like I said, with me talking through slides, screen share if it's appropriate, audio, worksheets, and checklists. I think what I've found is that students really like that. They like to kind of keep track of where they started and where they're ending up. And also having some sort of, what I think is really important is having some sort of action step at the end of each lesson or module, because you want to make sure, again, that your students are actually implementing the information and not just watching videos. So I like to give people an action step and say like, okay, do this one thing or two things, and then don't come back to the next lesson until you have that, and share it in the Facebook group, get feedback on it before you progress forward. So yeah, I think all of those things can be really effective.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then when you first started out, in your first few iterations of your course, were you selling, like, did you sell it yourself, like on the phone, or were you using other methods?
No, I mean, I did a pretty similar version of what I do now, just much less polished. So I would do, instead of like, now I have my webinars on like a pretty webinar platform, and there's like a chat going, and it's very streamlined and professional. But back at the beginning, when I was first starting out, I basically did the same thing. So I'd create organic content on Instagram and invite people then to like a Facebook Live that I was doing, or some sort of like Zoom call where I would be teaching them something that they wanted to know related to my course topic. So at that time, it was like related to adrenal fatigue. So I was talking about that. And then from right after that live training, then I would give some sort of promotion into my course. So I'd be like, okay, thank you for everybody who joined live. I'm going to drop this like promo code for everybody who's going to join the course down below. You have the next 24 hours or whatever to get it at this price. And then it goes up. So very similar in some ways to what I do now, except now everything's automated. So I'm not even getting on the live anymore.
Right. So now you just have a fantastic, kind of mega lead magnet, right? Where you send people to a webinar that you've already done that's really polished, that you did one time. And then from there, so basically you just push people to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there is actually a live chat on there. So people can still, even though I'm not on there live teaching, they can still chat with me or my assistant live if they have questions. So I like that element to still be able to help people if they have questions. But other than that, yeah, I was like, my thought is always, okay, if I'm spending an hour doing something, like how can I leverage this? How can I leverage my time and energy the most? And automating that whole sales process was just like a no-brainer for me, because I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, anybody who's done sales calls knows that they work well, but like it's a lot of energy, and like you don't want to be doing that probably all day, every day, right? So automating that process is huge.
No, I like that. And it makes so much sense. So like you basically want to take a whole bunch of upfront work and make this course. You can do it live, you can record it, pre-record it, whatever you want to do. And then you can spend your time doing the marketing, making the webinar, and then all you have to do is spend your time like Amie does, which is just market the webinar, essentially, right? And pieces of content that relate to your course, and then always be driving people to your webinar, which is your sales call basically for people to raise their hand and be like, yeah, I want this thing. So you get to play the numbers, and you're not your leverage. Again, you're not getting on those calls. So if you have 100 people coming to a webinar of yours, that's like 100 sales calls you don't have to do.
Exactly.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And so that's why I try and talk. I talk about this all the time, because I'm like, I want everybody to experience this, that like, you don't have to be, doing sales calls all day long, hustling all day long. You can actually automate a huge portion of this, because most people would rather be spending their time like in the creative stuff, or actually doing what they want to be doing, which is like, I don't know about your, audience, but maybe like actually working with somebody in person, or, not being on the sales call. Most people do not want to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, you'll save them from that. Yeah, like some people don't want to be in delivery, and some people do, and most people don't want to be on sales calls. So I think just having the option and like the freedom to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to automate this part of my business because I don't like spending time in it, and I can spend more time in this aspect of my business. And this just gives you the choice, because otherwise you kind of don't really know how you can even make that happen, even if you wanted to.
Right. And again, like doing a sales calls, again, it's not like there's anything wrong with that, but it's not going to leverage your audience. Like you're spending time with one person, whereas that hour you could be spending like making a reel that's going to reach 100,000 people and potentially really grow your audience. So it's always thinking about like, what is the best, most leveraged use of my time in order to scale my business.
See, you're in an interesting point when creating a reel is more valuable for your time than than other aspects of your business, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's all about reach. If you have a big enough audience and you're getting to that place, and like, hey, I just need to put out a couple reels. I need to get the numbers in and drive these people to my webinar. That's a great place to be in. We should all strive for that.
Totally.
Awesome. Guys, feel free to drop any last minute questions you have for Amie. And Amie, for people if they want more help from you, how can they go ahead and do that?
Yeah, I think the best, if you're interested in Online Course Academy or Passive Income Academy, or both of them, the best place to go would be the link that I think you dropped in the chat already, which is going to send you guys to, so you'll be able, it's really cool because you'll actually be able to see in action this entire process that we talked about. So right now is the free piece of content. Now I'm sending you to that automated training. You can watch it. It'll teach you all about starting an online course, making passive income, how to start a webinar, all of that. And then it'll also talk to you about my 2 programs and how to get them if you're ready. And you'll also get a discount if you sign up for that link. So
nice.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, awesome. I don't see any more questions coming in, Amie, and I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I'm super, super grateful that you came in and shared all this with us. You literally answered every single question that we threw at you in this hot seat here.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad. This was really fun. And yeah, I'm happy to chat with anybody. I also, I don't want people to think that like after this whole conversation, like I never talk to anybody one-on-one. I actually am like, I talk to people in my DMs on Instagram basically all day, every day. So if you ever have a one-on-one question about a course or something that we talked about today, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram as well. I'm at Rebel Nutrition. So
awesome, Amie. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging with us today. And Amie, again, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you guys. This is so fun.
Have a good one, Amie. We'll talk to you
Thanks.
soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.